Good vibes, thick thighs inside the minds of psychic mamas. Good vibes, thick thighs inside the minds of psychic mamas. Vibes only, vibes psychic mamas. Vibes only, your favorite psychic mama. Vibes only, vibes psychic mamas. Vibes only, your favorite psychic mama.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to Good Vibes, Thick Thighs. I am your host, Gemini 211, aka Bad Bitch Energy. I am here with a special guest and my co-host.
Obviously, you all know me. It's Roxy, aka Intuitive Rocks. And we have a very special guest today who's an author and just came out with a children's book called What Do You See? Her name's Jaren Elise Turner. Welcome. We're so excited to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Roxy, and you, Andrea. Like you mentioned, I'm an author. I love the children's book space. I'm also a yoga instructor. I'm also working in corporate America. I am a true Spelman Gemini. I went to Spelman College for undergrad, and the Gemini is my sign. So yes, I am one person that wears multiple hats.
I think that's just a Gemini trait.
I was just going to say, I'm outnumbered here. You both are Gemini.
Yes.
And I feel like if you really dig into Geminis, like I feel like we're all like a jack of all trades. Like there's so many. My husband's a Gemini and I'm like, dude, I can't keep up with his mindset. But then he reflects to me and he's like, I can't keep up with you. And I'm like, I just think that's just in the nature of Geminis to be constant flowing, constant doing something. No doubt.
Yeah, like we see a gap. We know we can fill it, even if we have no experience in that space. And then we're automatically self-appointed gurus or experts. And then people listen to us because we're like, yeah, I know this. And they're like, oh, where'd you do this before? And we're like, oh, maybe in a past life, but I'm going to definitely use this experience moving forward. So I'm right there with you, Andrea. It's like the Gemini spirit can be overwhelming if you don't know how to channel everything. But with me, with therapy and good growth, I've been able to ground that energy so I can make some good accomplishments with all that energy that's flowing.
Awesome.
I mean, my moon's in Gemini. Does that mean I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to emotions?
100%.
But before we get started with like learning more about what you do and stuff, let's go ahead and test our intuition by doing the 2 truths and 1 lie.
I'm not in good terms with this game this season, so I need to pick up my game.
I feel like we need to have like that dum 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 music to kind of bring it in, like two truths, 1 lie.
Take a pause with the music.
I'll go and just jump right in. I climbed Machu Picchu with my mother. I was casted by the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I have been in a movie.
I think the 3rd one's a lie.
I think the 3rd one too.
You are right.
I got it right.
On it.
Well, I'll have to say, because me doing research on the guests we have on and stuff, I do know you also wrote a book where you state how strong and how important a mother-daughter bond is. So I figured that first one has to be true because that sounds like some intense bonding time.
Yes. Mom and I went to Peru. She is a rock star. She inspires me on multiple levels. And she's like, we're here, we're going to do it. And I was like, are you sure, Mom? She's like, yes, come on. Like, if you think about it, you won't do it. Jump right in.
That's so true with a lot of things in life. Your mom sounds like a badass.
She totally is. I mean, you guys think I'm cool. You meet her, she's so much more cooler. And it's just a guru of wisdom and has so many amazing traits. But the one thing that just stands out about her, some people just get settled. And I don't know if that just comes from fear of unknown, but she will tackle everything. She is constantly evolving. And it has rubbed off on me in many ways, because how can you just be stagnant when your mom's like, we're doing Machu Picchu, we're going to Peru, we're going to Colombia in October. She just came back from spending a month in Spain. Like, that's the kind of rock star she is.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's super awesome.
I already feel like I'm like 100 years old in like a 40-year-old body. It's like, yeah, no. My body tells me no, but my mind is like, yes, you can do it. But then the body's like, oh, the aches and pains. Geez. Okay, I want to know because I'm nosy. I want to know about the Oprah show. Well, tell me.
Yes. So the topic was about, ironically enough, mother-daughter relationships.
Wow.
And Roxy already hit it on the head. And it's so funny, until I was thinking about it, I didn't even draw the connection. So my first novel is about mother-daughter relationships, a dream come true. The setting is in Costa Rica. Fast forward, or I should say reverse, because the Oprah opportunity came about 10 years before. They were doing a segment on mother-daughter relationships. How can you strengthen the bond? What have you learned? What was some things that happened in your past that you had to talk through with your mother? And my mom and I have a great relationship, but like most mother and daughters, when you're in high school, when you're in middle school, the mother is literally the lioness. She's protecting you. So there's not always that time to have the warm and fuzzy. And then when you're independent, it's like, okay, let's be best friends. And so that is how I was able to frame up our relationship. And that's how we got casted.
The way you broke it down was definitely true too. Well, I mean, from a like a daughter point of view, but I don't know, Andrea,
I have
like
5
you,
daughters.
yeah, I was just gonna say you have that mother-daughter bond with
I do, but you know what's funny is that it's so like as you said, like the junior high like era. I'm going through that right now where I'm like the worst critic. And it's funny because the topic of this morning, well, everybody gets involved because if the baby's mad, she goes and reaches out to everybody. So then everybody's over 21 and everybody's like, you're doing this wrong and you're doing this wrong. So the topic of our conversation was she wants to go to college, right? But she's getting a B in aerobics. So when I asked, I said, why are you getting a B? Like, that's like the easiest class. Like, how could you not get like an A plus 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 plus? And she said, participate. You don't participate, but you have a B. Yeah, because he likes me, the teacher. That doesn't make sense. So I'm like, so you need to figure out what you need to do, extra credit. I don't know, figure it out. And then it got on to like the chores and responsibilities. And she finally like lashed out and said, I'm tired of you wanting me to be somebody that I don't want to be. And I said, I'm sorry that I want you to be successful and I want you to have an education and I don't want you to struggle in life. Nobody tells you to be a certain way, dress a certain way, think a certain way, other than you need to go to school, you need to go to college, you need to have an education, you need to be self-sufficient. So right now it's the era of, then she calls everybody and all the sisters, and everybody this morning came at me like, you're mean, let her be who she wants, let her. And I'm like, where is this coming from? No. Usually I'm like, let me intake this and make the adjustment. But this morning I'm like, no, dude, sorry, but you need to be independent. You need to focus on schooling. And if it makes me a bad parent, but now that my older girls are like in their 20s, I feel like I don't remember this hard high school time where I'm like, oh God, I'm the bad person again. Did I not fix that the first time, the second time, the third time? So it's definitely a mother struggle, but it's amazing and it's a blessing in disguise, the relationships. Not all of my relationships with my daughters are as amazing as yours, but they're a work in progress.
I think it comes with time. And like I said, when you're the lioness and you're protecting and you're providing and you're doing all these things, you have all these responsibilities, you almost have to intentionally create space. But then once the responsibilities decrease and the kids are independent, then they choose to develop that kind of relationship. So I definitely think, Andrea, it's going to come over time. And the way you're loving on your girls, they're going to say, oh my God, my mom cared about me. And I think that is what develops the relationship for mothers and daughters to be friends.
Roxy, it sounds like you have to have a daughter.
Exactly.
I mean, I have a stepdaughter and she loves me already, but then again, maybe because there's distance between us because she's a teen right now. So who knows how it would have been if we lived closer,
Yeah.
But we'll see in the future if I have a daughter or not. But I think I was made to have boys. 2 for 2. I don't think there's any girls coming soon. Is it only those 2 books, the novel, A Dream Come True, and then the children's book?
Total of 4. So there's
okay.
a novel, A Dream Come True, like I said, set in Costa Rica, is all about mother-daughter relationships. The second book is an important topic, but it was a hard book to write. It's a children's grief book.
Mm.
And that came from me unexpectedly losing my best friend from college. And she had a 2-year-old son. So not the best inspiration or motivation. However, it did allow me to kind of really go deep to kind of say, well, how do you talk about this with children so they still have a connection and they don't feel like, okay, they're no longer here and I can't talk about them anymore. And then the other 2 books are the What Do You See book on diversity and inclusion and Black history. And then there's a companion journal that accompanies the What Do You See book that's all about mirror reflections and affirmations and self-esteem building exercises for young girls. For everyone, but when you read it, it definitely is targeted. And my niece, who is an aspiring ballerina, is the motivation for me writing the book.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I feel like it's so important to start at a young age, molding the mind to have that self-acceptance and that power in like the I can and I am and all those type of affirmations. Like it's so like I have 2 boys, but even with them in the mornings, we do our affirmations too. I am strong. I am, loved and stuff. Cause it's, especially in today's society and world where everything's just at hand's reach with them with technology. It's definitely so important because they are vulnerable at such a young age. And then the grief book that you spoke on, like when kids are young, in my opinion, grief is sort of like a taboo subject where people don't want to like speak about it because of like the effect it could bring on to the kids. So I think I'm definitely gonna like look that book up of yours to get, because it's definitely super important to talk about it.
Yeah. And you guys will definitely tap into the message. It's done in poetry. You both are spiritual mamas. I think that's what the overview said. And it really does have that full circle moment where just because someone's not here in the physical world does not mean they're not in the spiritual world looking out, continuing to love you. It's a reminder that the relationship is there. It just is different. And it's allowing the young kids to say the name, look at pictures, be able to ask questions, still do the things that you remember doing with that individual. And it really is a beautiful way to talk about grief without making the child or even adults, because to be honest, we're all big kids. So I'm in the space of writing children's books, but I have a lot of adults who have read What Do You See, as well as The Biggest Star. And they're like, oh my goodness, I was able to heal from the words, because words are going to be how you resonate with the energy and the intention behind the word. And so going back to The Biggest Star, like I said, it was super tough for me to stick with it, but it was a part of my own grief therapy. And I had to get out of the anger. And even I mentioned this in the book, don't be angry with God. You have to get past that anger to be able to really hold on to the amount of love that you received. And that really is what you miss. And then also by doing those things, love is never ending and it's forever. So you then tap back into not only the relationship you once had, but your ability to love allows you to then create other relationships with other people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What inspired you to become a writer?
I took a humanities class in high school, and I've always been very analytical and linear. So like if you see me at work, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, she's a nerd. She's all about the numbers. And I, probably going back to the Gemini, have both sides of me. I still felt that there was something missing. So I remember I took a humanities class on a whim, and the teacher was one of those like, let me jump on the desk kind of teachers. Let me be all over the place. Let me bring my energy in. And we read a lot of books. One of the books was by Maya Angelou, changed my life. And I remember reading I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And number one, thinking, oh my God, this is a young person that wrote this book, only to find out she wasn't. But her style really tapped in to tell the experience from a young person's perspective. And that is what really got me into journaling. And in terms of the writing and the published writing, the same friend that I mentioned that passed unexpectedly would look at different things I wrote, poetry, And she's like, why are you not sharing this with the world? Like, you have a gift. But my confidence wasn't there. Like, I believed in myself to be like this corporate person. But when you're in the vulnerability of writing, sometimes you're like, no one wants to read this. They're not going to see my value. But she was really a good motivator, and she inspired me to share the work. And for books, even I surprised myself that I've created this space for myself to just be super vulnerable and transparent.
That's such a pretty story.
It is. But I think me and Drea could relate to when you said, like, who's going to read it? Because I feel like that's how we were when we're like, who's going to listen to this podcast?
Yes. Yeah, like what do I have to say? And you guys both have so much great content. Andrea, before you joined, Roxy and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, to prepare, I did listen to some of the podcast. And that's the thing that has given me so much strength is everyone can be an author. Everyone can have a podcast, but only a select few will actually execute on those ideas.
Right.
That is what the difference is between all these great assets and people that actually take action.
Were you spiritual before you got into writing books, or did that come?
Yes and no. And I was like shaking with resonating with the question, like, this is a really good question based on what we just talked about. Raised in the church, had a really good foundation for religion. But what got me more into the spiritual world, spirituality, I don't know if you've seen my bracelets, crystals, essential oils, yoga, all those things, was really a health scare I had. And you go to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with a rheumatoid issue. And the doctor's like, this is what the test results are saying. And I felt really fatigued, and I felt really old in my body at like 22. I was like, there's no way this is how a 22-year-old should feel. And she was like, well, you're going to have to be on medicine. And I'm like, for how long? And she's like, well, chronic illness means this is probably your life. And I remember being in that chair thinking, no. And that probably was like the first time I had that like gut reaction from the pit of my stomach to be like, no, this is not going to be my story. This is not going to be my narrative. So then I started tapping into, well, what other resources out there? I don't know if you guys are familiar with medical intuitives. I met with a bunch of those. I met with homeopathic doctors. I met with spiritual advisors. And yes, this was presented in my body, but it wasn't just, oh, you have this illness. It was food related. It was thought related. It was mindset. It was like all these things that were creating a toxic space that then this developed. And testimony time, I have no rheumatoid issues. It's completely out of my blood system. I went gluten-free. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. And I started just opening up my soul to writing.
Wow.
That's super amazing and inspiring. And so we just recently had an interview with another guest, and she talked about emotion code, how sometimes our trapped emotions and how we feel inside can end up turning into some sort of like physical ailment instead of just emotional ailment. And you denying that physical ailment, saying like, no, this is not what I'm gonna feel. That's just like speaking it into existence. That's so awesome that like worked out for you and everything.
Yes. And not to have this all about my mom, because she's not here and this is not her on the podcast, but I felt it, but I almost think that was her inner voice speaking to me in that moment. And I remember leaving the doctor's office relieved because I knew something was wrong. So at least I had something, like there was a tangible thing. And the illness is called Sjogren's. And I remember my mom saying, number one, this is presented in your body. You don't have it. So it was first segmenting the illness from Jaren and saying, this is presenting today, but this is not a lifetime illness. This is not something you're going to have forever. And then identifying that there were all these resources outside of going to a traditional doctor. And the thing that's freaking awesome is I married the two, where I was still going to the traditional doctors. I did get on medicine because my doctor was like, there's a lot of things that you can do. She was an evolved doctor and connected me with someone who had a therapy practice that specialized in physical manifestations of emotional distress. Wow. So she goes, let's get you unpacking a lot of why you're storing this stuff. And there's a book my mom has been reading for years. And if anything happens, it's like you have a headache and you're like, I just have a headache. And you're thinking I'm dehydrated. And my mom's like, no, 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 we're going to look at the Louise Hay You Can Heal Your Life book. And I don't know if that's something, Roxy, that the last guest mentioned, but the whole book will have, this is what your life is presenting. What is it caused by? So like knee issues, I think, are related to inflexibility and not wanting to move with the future. And there's affirmations that are in there to help you develop and heal with it. She has a bunch of other books, but that one definitely has the connection. And I have found value. I really have. But totally, I agree with your last comment. I knew somewhere within my spirit that this was an opportunity for me to change. And what also empowered me is the more I've told my story, the more people have found strength in my story and want to change their lives as well. Where I tell them, you don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel like you're 80, but you're 22 years old. You don't have to pop pills and do all this stuff and sleep for like 15 hours. Like your life is meant to thrive, not for you just to survive.
That's such a powerful message.
It really is, because I started this with like, my body feels this. Here she is. Like, you don't have to feel that. Okay. For mediumship, a lot of times it's like a spiritual thing where you absorb these like pains and funky things and weird things that sometimes I feel like my body, even today, I was just like, I've been so tired, but granted, I did just come back from a 2-week vacation. So like, I'm trying to like get my life and all that together. But like, I just feel so tired. And today I'm like, no, whoever is here, whatever is going on, like you need to just leave me alone and you cannot make me feel this. So today I had to get out, ground myself, like start letting go, moving things around. And I feel like it's exactly what you said. Like my body feels way older than it should for no reason. But at the same time, I know some of it has to do with mediumship and absorbing energies and things like that. So it's definitely a work in progress, but I want to check this out because I'm like you, like I'm not really a doctor person, and I'm doing therapy right now, and they just sent me with psychiatry, and I don't do medication like that. So now it's like, Andrea, but you have to try. You don't know what's going to help you if you don't try it. No, I don't want to try. Like, what's natural? Like, what can I do that is natural? That's not, I don't want all this. So I'm probably, I did a reading for a lady the other day, and she's a therapist, and we started talking about this, and she's like, I would not want you to be my patient because you're telling no. And I'm like, well, I don't want medicine. Can you find another remedy that's not medicine? Like, I don't know, find something else. I should be, so this book, it will probably be good for like the migraines, the little aches and pains when you're like, hey, let me find something natural, an affirmation, or something to release that stored emotion.
100%. You probably already know about this, but spiritual baths.
Mm-hmm.
So being around other people's energy, I know I'm an empath and I love to teach yoga, but everything you just said, Andrea, I can go in and have someone say, oh my goodness, my whole body. And then already my shoulders are like tight. What happened? So I am big on just like cleansing my energy with salt and coming in the house, saging the house. So everything that you mentioned, but spiritual baths, which just has Epsom salt and citrus, lemon lime, and just soaking in it with a little bit of lavender has reset my body and allowed a lot of that residual energy that's looking for a home, because you do amazing work and you're releasing energy. It's almost like taking that released energy and putting it in the right place, which is not your body.
Jaren, did you always want to be like a yoga instructor? Or did you find that yoga for you is like the best way to ground, and that's why?
That is why. I was not like growing up around yogis. But in my journey for healing, a lot of people kept saying yoga. And they were like, this will calm your mind. You'll find a lot of good benefits in your body. Now, I've always been a naturally flexible person. I was a cheerleader growing up, dancer, all those different things. And it's so funny how you walk into a room and feel like you're at home. So my first yoga class, my yoga teacher said, oh my God, you have a great practice. And I'm thinking, I have a great what? She's like, yeah, and I said, this is my first class. She's like, no way. And she really helped me to develop the practice. And then that same feedback is what I would get from all of these teachers. And I have a really good friend who's my Pilates trainer. He teaches yoga. He he and I have created this safe space where he can literally tell me anything. And he said, if this is a natural gift, why aren't you teaching yoga? And then I respond with, I'm busy. And, this is before I was writing books. I'm busy and I'm dating and I'm doing all this stuff, putting every other agenda item in front of my gift. And then he's like, you know what? You'll just enjoy learning about yoga, because I'm a big nerd. I think I mentioned to you guys before. So when he said that, I was like, ooh, I could sound intelligent. I could go to parties and break down anatomy. And I initially thought, I'll just get yoga certified because that's something I want to add to my toolkit. You guys, never thinking I was going to teach. Then the power of social media, I post, just finalized yoga teacher training, prayer hands and emojis and all sort of good stuff. Within an hour, I got a DM from a friend of a friend saying, oh my goodness, we're opening up a yoga studio. We would love to talk to you further. Andrea, I'm like, talk to me further. It's a week before Christmas. My mind was thinking, I'm going to Pittsburgh. I'm going to be around my niece and 2 nephews. Yoga, not to say it was the furthest thing from my mind because I just got certified, but I wasn't thinking, now you're certified, now you're going to teach. I had a conversation with the person literally after a date. So I'm coming in with heels, a skirt, the whole nine, not trained to do yoga. It's just a conversation. And I told him, like, I'm leaving to go home. And he's like, oh, just come in, 30-minute conversation. At the end of the conversation, him and his business partner say, you're hired. And I'm like, what? He's like, we hire based on energy. We think you're awesome.
Wow.
You're a great teacher. And I'm thinking, I just got certified. Going back to the whole Gemini thing of, I'm a guru at everything. I really was not thinking I was going to teach that quickly. And I ended up falling in love with teaching restorative yoga. And I've been doing that for 7 years.
Do you do it like in person only or also virtual?
I need to increase the virtual experience because I teach like 30 minutes from where I live. So the first studio and the experience and story I was just telling you about was literally like a 5-minute drive. So I had a huge client base. I'm out of Atlanta, kind of in the downtown area. And now that I'm teaching in East Atlanta, a lot of my students that are further away and are closer to where I live are like, where's your online class? So I will say definitely in 2023, that is something I'm going to invest time and energy in, because there are a few small things that you can do. You do not have to be a yogi to feel the benefits of restorative breathing, conscious thoughts. There's just a couple of things you can do every morning. And I think the biggest myth with yoga is that you have to be this huge guru and I meditate for 2 hours a day. You don't. Literally 3 deep breaths, a couple of neck movements, shoulder movements, and twist, and you will literally feel like a new person every morning.
I'll be on the lookout for that virtual.
Yes.
Sign me up.
You need to try that. So what are some benefits for people that don't really know? I mean, I feel like a lot of us, we know the term yoga, but we don't really know the benefits or how powerful or what are some benefits of yoga, especially like our listeners that are healing and things like that? Like, how beneficial is yoga for somebody who's in that type of mindset or space?
Very beneficial. And literally, yoga means breath. So if you're breathing, and this is what I tell my students, if you're breathing, you're doing yoga. We have gotten into this space where the fundamental area of yoga has been added to include all of these different poses. And not to say the poses are not yoga, but at the fundamental level, yoga is conscious breathing. So like I said, taking 3 deep breaths just to create a different baseline for your breath as well as for your heart rate does wonders. And the mindfulness that comes along with yoga is probably my second huge benefit. So you're in a space with yoga. It's meant to minimize distractions, and it's meant for you to be your focus. So in my yoga class, most of the poses that we do, your eyes are closed. So you're not looking at your partner. You're not looking at someone who's next to you because you'll be distracted. And as you guys know, what robs joy is competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so the benefit of yoga, like I said, is the breathing. The poses are just for you to distract your mind, but really it's going back to creating a balanced breath. And then the mindfulness for you to do something that is distracting you from life. And if you choose to go back to those thoughts that you had before yoga, it's your choice. I always say your mat, your practice, but it's the intention behind the movement and the mindfulness with the movement that allows you to just be in a different space. That with breath, with meditation, in my class, I do a lot of affirmations. It really is planting those powerful seeds. So the next time you're in a stressful moment and the shoulders become earrings, you're like, wait, but Jaren said this is what stress feels like. Now I have a baseline for what peace feels like.
I need that because everything's like
Right.
we'll be talking by the end of the day, my shoulders touch my ears because I'm just like, oh, there's so much tension in the shoulders. That's amazing. I've never really done yoga because I have scoliosis rods in my back, the Harrington rods. So I feel like you said, the competition, like I can't do certain movements. So I've tried it once and I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing that I cannot. But I feel like, now the way that you talk about it, it's something that even somebody like me, even with this, like I can't move, but there's still certain things that I can probably do to ground myself, right? To release, to get that peace that sometimes we just need from a long day's work, I just need some peace of mind. So I like how you said, like, there's just head movements, breaths, things like that the person like me that's not a yoga person, I think like, oh, I need to be way over here and do all
or like
these
super flexible,
Oh.
leg overhead type of
Yes,
stuff.
exactly.
So I am super flexible. You both would never know that in my class because I am trying to create awareness for you to have in your body. And Gemini twin, I also have scoliosis. I didn't get surgery, but this was one thing that helped me to elongate my spine in a way that I was more conscious of how I was sitting and posture. Because as you know, the way your body was made is to have that little curve, but it's consciousness and awareness like, oh, if I continue to do that, my back's going to hurt. One side is going to pull on my shoulder. Like there's all these things, as you know, the scoliosis is in the back, but you feel it in your lower hip and in your shoulder most times because everything's a little bit off. And so the great beauty about yoga is you come so you're more aware of your body. So any teacher that's putting you in these crazy movements, that's probably not the right fit for you. And I think that everyone should benefit from yoga. And me being a yogi is almost taking the name and just changing it for myself, coming from a space of yoga is healing and yoga is breath. Let me show and empower everyone in this class that when they leave, they feel much better about themselves. In a lot of classes, you won't feel that because you'll go into class, say you're a beginner, and somebody starts throwing out poses to you, and you're like, I don't know what child's pose is.
That's how it was.
You got to find a teacher that knows how to demo and who gives you really good cues. And the other piece too, you go into a class, we are trained to listen first. And I always ask the students individually, is there anything I should be aware of? Is there anything that you don't want us to do? Is there anything in your body that you feel like we have to just give special love? I never say anything that hurts because I think pain is a reminder to love on yourself differently. So it's all about reshaping yoga to make it accessible for all.
Everything you say, like I could totally see why you're like a successful author and stuff. Like your words come out and they're so captivating and like quotes, and I'm just like taking it all in. Like, yeah,
I love it. See, I'm telling you, I knew this was going to work out for the highest good of everybody, the listeners, us. I'm learning stuff from you guys. I think you're a rock star, Andrea. When you said the 5 girls, I'm like, how and where? And how is she talking about someone who's 20? Like, can you talk about the healthcare and the skincare tips? Because you're a rock star.
Yeah, I need to work on that. Now I hit 40 and I'm like, society and social media where I'm like, maybe I need Botox. Maybe I need lip injection. And my husband's like, dude, stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're not the Joneses. Like, stay in your lane. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But I went to the gym with my daughter. One of my daughters has been going to the gym and she's like, Mom, go to the gym with me. I'm like, okay. And we were kind of just taking turns and I sat for a minute and I'm like, damn, I can't believe, like, people, if I didn't know us, I would look at us and be like, oh, they're just friends or they go to school together. Like, you're my kid. Like, geez.
I'm telling you, you look awesome.
I actually have 2 daughters that are graduating this year with their bachelors. So yes, and I'm a grandma. So
Okay, okay. That's why I said your skincare is gonna be coming out soon. I'm gonna be on the lookout for that. I'm telling you, I literally thought, oh, did you recently graduate from college? And you're like, man, no.
And that's how I feel when I look at Roxy. I'm like, oh my God, Roxy, you don't even need no makeup. And I'm over here like, geez, I need to put the blush on before I come on live or recordings. Now I'm like, I don't have time for that.
And I told her she still looks great. Like, I don't know why she's worried.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, lady. Thank you.
Well, talking to, hyping her up and then this whole self-esteem and stuff, talking good about ourselves. How important was it for you to release the book, What Do You See, which is all about the self-acceptance and promotes self-esteem and stuff?
It was so important. I had self-esteem issues growing up that I had to work on. Always saw myself as smart, but when it came to seeing myself as beautiful and being able to do things and take chances, I always was a little bit nervous. I struggled with, which you're probably going to be like, yeah, right, with public speaking, and I had to work on this. And a lot of mentors would always say, you have something amazing to say. You have to share this with others. Like, you have a lot of wisdom. So it was very important for me to use the opportunity with this book to talk about self-esteem. My niece is 12. She'll be 13 in September. She lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Like I said, an aspiring ballerina, African American, and her school does not have a lot of diversity. The diversity is coming. She also is a ballerina with the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater.
Nice.
And in that, she's just in many different spaces. So I really wanted something that she could read, be empowered by, and find her own strength. And the other thing with the book, which I think is just a beautiful addition, is there is an opportunity for girls to read about the trailblazers within the ballerina space. So everyone knows about Misty Copeland, but this also features several African-American ballerina first. And so as different people are reading the book and trying to create strength and feel empowered, they can look at this and say, I'm not the only, I'm not the first, others have gone before me. And my hope and intent is that they will take those stories and use it as something that they can build and leverage from.
Wow. See, everything you do is like for a purpose. It's inspirational, but I guess we are twins because I am the same. Like, I talking in front of crowds, and it's funny because I've always been a leader and I've always been like president of something, owner of something, using that voice. But little do people know I'm always like, I'm so shy. And they're like, no, you're not. Yes, I am. Like, unless it's something I know I'm talking about, then I'm like, okay, diarrhea of the mouth. But if it's something that I don't feel confident or I don't know, I'm like, dude, I'm so shy right now. Like, but it's crazy because I feel like everything that you talk about, everything you represent, everything that you are is inspiration. It's like, that's like, it sums up your energy into one word, inspiration. And I'm so glad that we booked with you because I just feel like, even for our listeners, a lot of them are looking for that inspiration or looking for that how to heal, what can I try to feel better? What can I do to make myself better or fix situations? And I think this is a great start. Like, I think me and Roxy should just take some videos of us trying to do yoga.
You could use it to like advertise your virtual yoga.
Look at 2 clients, but no, that's awesome.
But I feel like doing like that, like virtuals would be amazing because then we could just join your class and I could turn off my video so nobody laughs that I can't be flexible. And but I think that yoga, it's a good place to start, even for me, somebody who I feel like it's grounding. The more we talk about it, I feel like now I know why the yoga videos that you see, they're at the beach, they're at the sand, they're in the grass. Like, I feel like just me going out and trying to do some stretches like that would be so beneficial and so releasing of, just emotions for the day.
Because when you create space, I always find things grow. So even when you said your listeners may be looking for healing, I think that intention sets the universe in motion. Then you attract the answers that you seek. Now, I'm a firm believer that you're born with answers, that it's just unclogging the brain and getting the chaos out. And something I say in class is when we look within, we never go without.
That's deep. That is
See,
very
all these quotes and stuff, like you're gonna have to make like magnets of these quotes, stickers of these quotes, place them everywhere. I'm all for it.
Good. Good one.
Now, this episode, for our listeners, we're recording in May. Our season 4 is gonna come out in June. So this episode is gonna air like middle of summer after, you know, graduation season, all that. And you spoke on diversity and stuff. What advice would you give someone who's like graduating from like a small kind of town, venturing out to somewhere bigger and stuff, like that transition, if you have advice for them or not?
I think if you're going from a smaller city to a bigger either university or moving somewhere, always know your why. So I think oftentimes people think bigger is better, but I don't necessarily adopt that mindset. I think you have to figure out and identify the environments that you thrive within. But as that individual is deciding where they're going to move, where they're going to go, list out what they hope to get from the experience, and every day set an intention, not in what I want to receive, but how I'm going to pursue this. Pursue it with character, keep a level head. Every time self-doubt creeps in, create an affirmation that refutes that. So if you're in a situation and you're like, oh, I'm so slow. No, let's not say that. You may be someone who's detail oriented. So the affirmation to respond to I'm so slow could be I'm detail oriented and driven by process. But once I make a decision, I know within my gut and soul it's the right decision. Like empowering versus something that eliminates the spirit. We want to empower people. So I think as this individual moves, definitely setting daily intentions, figuring out a routine, because I am me wherever I go, whether I'm on vacation, whether I have business travel, wherever I go, I'm going to have my water, which I've been drinking all along. I'm going to get up and I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal and I'm going to work out. And that minimizes the unknowns because you are you wherever you go. And that will allow you to feel more empowered and create a structure from which you can thrive in. And then just do check-ins. Just because you move does not mean it's permanent. You may move someplace and say, I hate this location. This brings up an experience when I moved to New York City. So I'm from Rochester, New York. New York City is 7 hours away from Rochester. I didn't hate New York City, but it was so loud. And there was all this chaos and I didn't like taking the subway. I did that for almost 2 years and then decided, you know what, I think Atlanta's more my speed. It is okay to edit, pivot, and adjust. And I think we need to tell women, we need to tell our young kids, we need to tell boys, we need to say to everyone, you always have to check in. If it's not working, do something to change. That's a part of life. As long as you have breath, you can make another decision. So those would be my main tips for that individual, for them to create a space for them to thrive in, and for them to have a routine that keeps them grounded in who they are, what they want, and that alone will change their lives.
That's really good advice.
Change is hard. I feel like the word change for a lot of people, it's hard. The fear of the unknown, the fear of, you know, what to expect. I feel like a lot of women, we struggle in that change. And even just like Roxy and I were talking the other day about, you know, like women who stay in toxic relationships because they don't know their worth, and the change and the fear of, can I afford it? Where am I going to end up? And it's just crazy because I love how your mindset is like goal oriented. It's detail oriented, where I feel like a lot of times as women, when we're in this toxic environment, our number one priority is like, am I going to find love again? Am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? Am I going to like, and really talking to you, it's kind of like, no, let's prioritize. Like that's not even at the top of the list right now. That's like at the bottom, and let's find some ways to you know, to move energy. And I love how like just everything that you talk about is energy inspired, because I don't think that a lot of times we just live life like, oh, it's just happened. Oh, it's just, let's just figure it out. But in reality, your mindset is very, and like, I just feel like you're just so intelligent with your mindset and how it works that it makes my brain start like
wheels turning.
Yeah. If I'm not aligned, and literally I've asked this question to guys on dates, and let's keep it real. I date, I'm not in a relationship now, but I definitely have worked in that area of my life. The best advice I got was, when you find your bliss, men will find you to be beautiful. And it's really worked into my benefit, where I'm not chasing and I'm attracting. And in all the work that I'm doing, because it's intentional, men almost have to step up to the plate or keep it moving, because they're like, oh my goodness, she's doing this, she's doing that, she's doing this. And I'm not someone who wants you to give me accolades because of my accomplishments. A lot of my accomplishments were, this is what I need to do. I followed good direction. Okay, I checked the box. Where my pride comes from is where I've created things that weren't there. So Roxy, you asked me about yoga. I didn't really have someone I was looking up to for yoga. And then in the book space, in my family, I'm the first #1 Amazon bestseller writer, the one who's been the writer, the one who's published books, but I didn't have a blueprint to look up to. That is where I feel really happy and prideful, because you created something that wasn't there. And going back to your comment, Andrea, about the unknown is scary until you frame the unknown to say, oh my God, look at all these possibilities. The grief book for kids, there's not that many grief books out there for kids. The what do you see book? Yeah, there's self-esteem books, but my idea around, oh, my niece is having this experience. Would somebody benefit from it? You put it out there, and the next thing I know, my publisher's like, oh my God, you're #1 in these 5 categories. So that's what has given me that confidence to try to do more and to reshape the unknown, because like all of you, I have struggled. I have gone through some bad breakups that have caused me to question myself. But I think it's also caused me to reinvent myself to say, hey, my soul is off limits. Like, these things that I'm doing are going to help the world. And I know it's a special gift. And going back to like the spiritual aspect, once you're purpose based, you have to do some of these things. And something that Andrea said, I do reprioritize things because it's not a nice to have. It is a gift that I must share.
So how do you think you found, because obviously this is your purpose. So how do you think you found that? Like, obviously trial and error, but like, I feel like a lot of like our listeners, a lot of them are like, I don't know how to even find my purpose. I don't know what that, a lot of us, and I remember me going through my toxic breakup and divorce. I thought like, God, what did you put me here to just be a mom of 5? Like, is that what my purpose is, to just be a mom? I had no clue as to, I had something greater. There was something greater for me. So when you were at your low, like, how did you find your purpose?
I found it not by identifying my purpose initially, but identifying what I wanted to feel. So writing gives me joy. Seeing people benefit from yoga and them being healed from yoga makes me feel important. So I started trying to tap into what I wanted to feel first, and then associating it with different experience I had to say, I need to do more of that. So when I would journal and write some things, I felt better because it was my release. But then when I kind of stepped back to say, what does life look like for Jaren? As you probably can tell, I'm a smiling individual. I was a very happy child. Like, in my childhood, I smiled a lot. I wrote a lot. I remember just having this sense of freedom. So I first had to get back in touch with that and return to who I knew to be before the bad breakups, before doubt crept in, before I was in situations where I questioned like who I was and my beauty, and turning on the TV and not seeing people who look like me, walking into several yoga studios and the teacher does not look like me. But going back to a place and a point where I said, I want to feel happy. I want to smile every day. I want to feel that joy. I want to feel the connection. Once I identified that, I then tried to do what you said, the trial and error, to say, well, maybe I can feel it by doing yoga. Maybe I can do it by sharing some of my work. And social media gets a bad name because it is considered to be a distraction. But a lot of my preliminary writing pieces I put on social media and got so many DMs. Oh my God, the way you said that, I couldn't have said it better. You just said what was in my heart. So that it kind of was I wouldn't say slower process, but probably a good 2 years of staying in constant connection with my emotions and then finding experiences that matched and gave me that same high vibration of emotion and then passion. And then like I created a outlet for it. So if your listeners who are out there thinking, literally every morning for 5 minutes, people always say gratitude, and I'm a big gratitude person, but just take it a step further. When in your life were you the happiest? Don't think about what you were doing per se, but just connect with that emotion. And then the next day, in those 5 minutes, frame how do you see happiness looking like for yourself, for your life, for those that you love. And then I think from that, you will be able to identify your purpose and passion, because that mixed with your talents will show you where you should go next.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, a blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like next up for you, you need to like write a book for like those coming to age stories, like
Yes. A Dream Come True has a lot of that, but because it's more of a novel, I think I've been going back and forth with spirituality, but Cliff Note versions for spirituality. If you can't read all the books, if you can't read what Tony Robbins is saying or all these other leaders in the space, Eckhart Tolle, just read Jaren's 20 pages summary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I have tons of books. You can't even see them right now, and there's like, sometimes I'm just like, okay, skip to the next. I'm there because sometimes I need to read something. There's something that I don't know. So having like 20 lists, like, let me just skip through it really quickly would be amazing.
Yeah.
She'd be like, no, I need all the details. I need details.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another thing that I've done is the 60-second reset. I got it from Ariana Huffington, where you literally lay out things that in 60 seconds bring you to a space of happiness. So for you, Andrea, it may be your 5 daughters. It may be, I love the shirt you have on. It may be this podcast. Yes, radiate positivity. But in 60 seconds, people are like, is it just a list of pictures and quotes? No. It's what resonates happiness and joy with you. So even going back to how does someone identify passion and purpose? If you have your why, which usually is family and friends and those that you love, you will almost want to do things for them more than you want to do them for yourself.
Especially as a mom, I feel like we always want to do for our kids and always promote our, like me, and I think Roxy's the same. We want our kids to be raised better and have more and be more loved. Like, we want to just make all these changes to how our upbringing was. So I feel like we always do, yes, as a parent, you're like, kids first and do better, and what can I do to make them happy. So this was for me, I don't know about you, Roxy, but for me this was like so powerful, and I think I needed to hear all of this today, every bit of it.
For sure. I mean, we're gonna be looking out for that virtual yoga class because the thing about it is like you said, anybody could go behind a mic and speak on a podcast. Anybody could put pen to paper and write a book. Anybody could teach yoga, but the fact it's like what's behind it, like the person themselves, makes a huge difference. Because I'll be honest, there's books out there where I read and I'm like, why? Like, it doesn't make sense. Or there's like, I've tried like YouTubing yoga to try for myself, and it's just a person I'm not like vibing with, and I was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably some podcasts out there where you listen and you're like, they're just talking to talk. Like,
Exactly. And that's why exposure is so key. I cannot thank you both enough for giving me a platform to come and talk and just have like a relatable conversation. And, like you just said, Roxy, everybody can do it, but the people who are chosen have a reason. And I always say, my living is not in vain if someone hears from me and hears my story, and in that moment has a different thought and a different expanded view. If they're able to now find the confidence to do something that they couldn't do in the past, that makes me know that I'm doing the right things. And that is reinforcement of my purpose.
Jaren, you talked about attracting men with your energy, but I feel like you're attracting us with your energy. Like,
I know.
I want more.
I know.
I love it.
And fun fact, Vero Estrada is the one that tagged our podcast Instagram on one of Jaren's posts and said, you two need a collab. And I was like, okay, let's make it happen. Let's see. And I'm so glad she did and brought us together because this was just amazing.
Aw, she's awesome. Fun fact, she lives across the street. Like, we're both in Atlanta. We met at a neighborhood restaurant. And she has just been a source of inspiration. I can't thank her enough for making this connection. She is intuitive herself. And I feel like this is exactly where I needed to be today. So I'm so glad that you included her into this because she's the one who made this happen.
Oh yeah, we love her.
Shout out to Vero.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like one of these days we're gonna have to have like a podcast reunion, all our guests that we've had on and everything, because we honestly haven't met anybody face to face. Me and Drea haven't even met face to face. Like,
that is crazy. Yes, sign me up for the reunion. Sign me up for the in-person getaway. Sign me up if you're like, where's that Yogi again?
Yes.
And all these good one-liners. Literally, know if you say, hey, can you? I'm already going to say yes. I won't even let you get the whole question out. Can you? Yes, I will be there.
That's so funny because I was just in Atlanta and I tried to meet up with Vero, but like her timing and my timing, we just it didn't work out. But I told her I went, what's the town that she lives in? I forgot what it's called.
So you'll hear people call it Upper West Side, West Midtown. But that's where, we're right in the Upper West Side, West Midtown location.
So that's where I was. I went to go eat Korean barbecue there. I don't know how I ended up at Korean barbecue there across the street from like a fire department or fire station.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just because it's Atlanta, but it tastes like smoked Korean barbecue.
Is it the fire department in close proximity that's doing it?
What is going on? Like, this is very different. I'm like, maybe because it's in Atlanta, everything's smoked out here. Yeah, but goes to Atlanta. If you're in ATL, go check out a session. Go do a yoga session.
Yes, I'm a regular at Sati Wellness, which is in Kirkwood. I'm always tweeting, which is just Jaren Turner. I said earlier in the podcast, my Instagram is Spellman Gemini. You can always find me on Facebook. And my website is JERYNTURNER.com. So many different ways to connect with me. And on that is where people will be able to find out about these online yoga classes that you two have already planted the seed and given me that little, okay, jump in the deep end. You can do this.
Yeah, you can.
For sure. And we'll definitely include all of that in our show notes of this episode of how they could get in touch with you. To buy any of your books, would Amazon be the best bet or?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Roxy. Amazon is the best bet. Also on Barnes and Noble, all books, A Dream Come True, The Biggest Star, What Do You See, the book, as well as the companion journal can be found on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm on the fence of buying A Dream Come True.
Does it feel like it's gonna bring up like emotions?
I think so. That's what I'm scared of. Like, I'm gonna read this amazing book about this amazing mother-daughter bond. Whereas in my case, I mean, I get along with my mom to a certain extent, but at the same time, we've had our bumping heads where you explain like we may outgrow it, but I feel like I haven't outgrown it. Like, I'm an adult, but I still feel like I'm that kid,
What I think, in my advice, not just because I'm the author, is the book is written fictionally. So the setting and everything, there's a lot of things that are pulled in from the relationship that I have, but it's also pulled in from other mother-daughter relationships. And the making of every great novel is conflict and resolution. So not to give away anything to you, Roxy, you will find that the relationship and the development is going to speak to you, and probably the relationship that you have with your mom. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, because within any relationship, there are the highs and the lows. But I think the biggest thing that you can take away is the healing aspect, and seeing your mother as an individual versus your mother. And she looking at you not as someone who's the daughter and just has to listen to me and do it because I said to do it, but don't look at what I did in my own life. It really separates the relationship and allows both characters to see each other as their innate self. So I don't want to give away the book, which I didn't do by that description, but it is fiction. And I think no matter if you have the best relationship with your mother, all mother-daughter relationships have to grow so that people can see themselves for who they are, not for what they expected them to be. And I think the whole nature of the story will allow, whether you have the best relationship or you have a relationship that you wish to improve or grow from or learn from, you can still get some huge nuggets from the book.
Then I'm definitely gonna get, because Drea knows I'm a bookworm. I've already read like 5 novels this year, like so I'm definitely gonna add that to my want to read book list. Then to wrap up, do you have any advice you want to give to our listeners? Any last, I mean, this whole episode was definitely a lot of little seeds that were just like amazing.
Thank you. I think the main advice and the thing that I want to close with is for everyone to just be gentle with themselves. And that sounds very cliche, like, yeah, what does that look like? If you have a bad day or an off day, you're still living. And that in itself is a blessing. So realizing that the emotions you feel are good, tap into them, because they're going to direct you in the way that your life should flow. And nothing should be labeled as bad or good. It just is. And we're all processing not only our own stuff, but what we've taken on from our parents, our family. There's just patterns that are passed down. And the other thing is, as you're gentle with yourself, if there is something that you wish to change, to develop, to create, knowing that even if you don't know what it is today, those resources exist. And I think the beautiful space that you guys have created with the podcast is allowing that to be more accessible to Black and Brown individuals and just people who may not have always seen themselves in the wellness space and spirituality, but now you are shining the light on some great and powerful individuals. So be gentle with yourself, but also be open, because change will come if you're open to change.
That is very true. This was amazing. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all your wisdom, your energy. That was so magnetic. I don't know. I feel like I just got off of like a box of chocolates and I'm high on chocolates right now.
Me too. I love chocolate.
So this was fun. Anything you want to add in there, Roxy?
No, I'm gonna keep an eye out for those. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Virtual yoga. Because I'm telling you, like, your energy's, like, you said it yourself, I said it, I'm saying it again, like, your energy, it's just attracting, like, and I'm just like, it's like that, like, light with the fly's just like, yes. I just want to go towards your energy, like, yes.
Well, come on.
I definitely appreciate your time with us and your wisdom. And I feel like we're going to have to do this again.
For
totally,
sure.
Totally.
Sure. We'll have to do like an episode where we're actually doing yoga.
I love that. And I'm all about it. And that way you guys will see it does not take you overhauling your life. Small changes have the biggest impact.
That reminds me of that quote that I think I have it on a necklace somewhere, where without change, there would be no butterflies.
Yes. It's like we sometimes stay in the caterpillar phase too long, not realizing that the cocoon of nurturing and love and growth and all that good vibes and thick thighs podcast
Yeah.
create this beautiful butterfly. And I didn't even think to say this before, but we fear change, but everybody has a process.
Mhm.
So instead of fearing change, love on your process. And then you'll recognize that you're the rock star you are. And no matter where you go, because you have a tried and true process, you will have the desired outcomes you desire and need.
I love that.
Yeah, because you are the grounding force. You are the balance in your own life.
I took all these notes. Like,
I
dude,
know.
I had great, like,
Seriously, she was preaching today. I'm all for it too. And I'm sure like our listeners are going to gain so much from this episode.
Awesome. That makes me feel good. And thank you both for being flexible. I know we had to change the time slightly, but once again, when it is supposed to be, and we get out of our own way, we're like, oh, we're flowing.
well, tons of love. Like Roxy said, we'll put all her information in the description. If you guys have any questions, comments, all that good stuff, feel free to reach out to us. But this was fun. Lots of love to you. Lots of love to all of our listeners. We are sending tons of love and tons of light, and we are out this BITCH. Bye.
Good vibes, thick thighs inside the minds of psychic mamas. Good vibes, thick thighs inside the minds of psychic mamas. Psychic mamas, your favorite psychic